So, welcome to the H1B Workforce and Rural Healthcare Introduction and Live Demonstration. Here's my contact information. This will be available again at the end of the session. Let's go ahead and dive in. So this is intended to be about a 35-minute session. I think yesterday it went maybe 36 minutes, but we'll be pretty much on time. Again, it's a live two-way communications. If you're here through your telephones, however, please don't put us on hold. We don't want to hear your hold button, your hold music. Here's my email and our company's website. Today is a very high-level session. We're not going to delve into forms and fields and details like that, but we are going to cover some primary topics that came right out of the email invitation. So there'll be no smoke and mirrors, no differences from what you signed up for what we're going to spend time on today. So with that said, kind of quickly, just a picture being worth 1,000 words. Here are some logos of some of the different organizations that we work with for H1B grants. We have been supporting H1B grants from the beginning for many, many years now. Tech Hire and SWIFTY and America's Promise grants, lots of scaling apprenticeship and closing the skills gap and One Workforce and rural healthcare. The two newest H1B grants the DOL ETA has rolled out. Excuse me. And we're in about 22 plus years of business, really experts in H1B, really experts in WIOA. We work with a lot of workforce boards, a lot of one-stops, hundreds of community colleges around the country, and training providers for these kinds of projects and other projects, whether they're single schools, if you will, single organization, multiple organizations as part of consortiums, in multi-state and single state projects, but lots and lots of these projects are consortium based. Yours might be as well. So we have a lot of experience with those kinds of large scale kinds of projects. Maybe you know people that were at some of these logos. Anyway, we are really H1B subject matter experts is really the point, and I am a member of that H1B team here at AGS. Here's our agenda. I'm going to switch over and I'm going to ask you just a couple of very quick poll questions here. Hold on, let me make sure I have my polls up. And I'm going to ask you the first poll question is, simple question. How ready do you feel you are for managing this grant, for tracking data and for reporting? Just one quick question, if you don't mind just kind of giving me that sort of feedback, so before we dive into this session, I have a kind of a sense of where you are. Okay, so a little bit of a mix. Some people are ready to go, some are sort of ready. Thankfully, not very many are flying blind at this point, so that's really, really great. Last quick question kind of drives to the agenda for today. Is what are some of the most important things that we're going to be covering today that you're here that you want to hear about? Running WIPS files, how to easily enter data, how to manage security, how to report performance outcome measures, your goals from your appendix, or any or all of those things. If any of those things are sort of the kinds of things that you're particularly interested in, that's important for me to know, so I don't so I can kind of structure what the group is really looking for. Okay, looks like everybody's kind of interested in everything. Okay, got it, no problem. I will close that. Thanks for that feedback. So today's key topics coming right out of the email invite. We're going to show you how to run a compliant WIPS report right out of this AGS Prime template, how to run your H1B real-time performance outcome measures, and some other reports. I will demonstrate for you how our security roles and organization architecture works, what that looks like. And then I'll do a quick swizzle over to, putting data in so you can see what that looks like for comprehensive Perl data management. Fields and business rules on forms, making it easy for data entry for your partners and your staff, so they don't have to have all those business rules memorized, right? There are hundreds and hundreds of business rules built into this application, into all of these H1B templates. So it's pretty complex stuff, especially when it comes time for WIPs reporting and making sure that the data that you're entering and keeping track of matches and meets the reporting requirements for the feds. And to have time for a recap and a quick discussion, and that will be the session for today. So if that's what you thought you were going to do, you are in the right place. Okay, let me just swizzle over real quick to my demo site. So what you are seeing is just one of my demo sites. This is sort of a combo demo site for One Workforce and rural healthcare. Obviously, if this were your site, you'd have your own domain name, you'd have your own either organization or project logo or logos. Maybe you want both, as the case might be. You wouldn't have AGS Prime logos here. So what we have done is built a stable of, one might say, of pre-built compliant templates or applications that are specifically compliant for each one of these grants. And we keep the grants up to date as the feds make changes. It's one of the benefits, one of the customer service benefits that comes with your subscription to any one of these pre-built templates. Is the system out of the box is compliant for data input and WIPs reporting, and we keep them all up to date based on federal business rules and WIPs changes. We know that the feds have just made a big change. We've already updated all those changes into all of our systems. So these templates are all ready to go for Perl 2021, even though the feds just in the last couple of days posted that you're not going to be required for your first WIPs report until the December quarter ends. So you have another extra quarter. We're ready. Our customers are all ready to go for Perl 2021. So what I'm going to show you here today is the template for One Workforce and rural healthcare together, since their business logic is the same at this point, and really what that looks like. AGS Prime itself is a platform. It is all hosted on Amazon Web Services on AWS. You have all the benefits of security and privacy that come from being part of a single tenant environment within AWS. Unlike Salesforce, not to pick on Salesforce, but it's a well-known product, obviously, and it is what's considered a multi-tenant environment, where all of us who use Salesforce log into Salesforce with our own credentials, and we see our data based on our login credentials, not because we are segregated, not because we have our own dedicated virtualized web server. All of our Prime customers have their own dedicated domain, their own hard-walled IP address. So that is a major difference and pretty important when it comes to PII. On a side note, you may notice that in the materials section on the Go to Train and Control panel, there's a handful of PDFs if your project is either One Workforce or rural healthcare. If you want to grab one of those PDFs, provides just a little bit of an overview and sort of an FAQ around some of the more commonly asked security questions. So we just try to provide that up front, since that's obviously a very big deal for these kinds of grants. So just save a little time in providing that information for you, as well as a PDF for the slides for today. They'll also be emailed to you afterwards if you don't want to grab them now. That's perfectly fine. Anyway, this is a 100% web-based application. There is no proprietary hardware or software that's needed in order to use the product for data input or for data extract for reporting. And we host everything obviously on AWS. So you're pretty well taken care of. We provide you that safety net and hold your hand throughout the entire process. So I've already logged in. Here's my site. As promised per our agenda, I'm going to jump over to the reports tab first. So we see our menu across the top. We call these modules. I've logged in as an administrator, so I get to see all of the features and functions of this particular application template. I'm going to show you some reports. Then we'll talk a little bit about security and demonstrate some of the security attributes. So because I have access to reports, I'm going to click on my reports module. And what you see here first is a series of what I'll call canned reports, pre-built reports, as you would expect in a commercial product of this nature, where we have pre-built for you a series of reports that, again, from our years of experience in supporting TACT grants and H1B grants of a wide variety, we know that in addition to, of course, first among equals, your WIPS CSV file, as grant managers and project managers, you want to be able to work with your data in a variety of different ways, including, just some canned reports that we have learned over the years that you all want to be able to report and just have in your hands, right? So we have a series of canned reports, and we continually add new reports as our customers kind of give us more feedback, and some really good ideas come forward from, your colleagues around the country, and we add that to the commercial product, which is kind of cool. And then we have a series of queries that were pre-built for you as well, that we've provided for you, dozens and dozens of queries, a couple of pages worth of queries. You also are able to build your own queries and build your own additional reports. If you want to use the AGS Prime data visualization tool, a report builder or query builder, you can build your own, in addition to the canned reports and the pre-built queries that you see here. And we train you how to do that. It's not very hard. So you have lots of flexibility there as well. So let's start by showing a standard sort of WIPS report coming out of Prime, so you can see, what it looks like. It's pretty straightforward, because if you're familiar with WIPS at all, this is not very sexy. It's just a 89 or 90, whatever the number is now for these grants, columns and rows for all of your participants. We provide you with a parameter box that you're going to select a series of different options. We're going to run this by the grant name and by the calendar year and by the calendar quarter. I'll just pick quarter 3. We give you some options to include a header line. We give you a pre-built data validation check report, an error checking report, if you will, to make sure that the data is going in cleanly, that nothing has changed from the Fed's perspective, and we can make sure we catch any errors ahead of time. We give you the ability to add some additional fields in your report if you wanted to use that for testing purposes. You would never use that if you were going to be submitting to the Feds. As well as you can run this for multiple, individual organizations or all organizations if you were running this for real for your WIPS file. Right? So we would go ahead and run this report, and it will present for you a file. I have another monitor over here that looks, I'm just going to drag this over, that looks like this, right? You have all of your, this is what an actual WIPS report would look like. We transcribe all of the yeses and nos and males and females, et cetera, to 1s and 2s and 0s and 9s, or whatever the aliases are that the Perl requires, right? So this is what a WIPS report looks like, coming out of AGS Prime. Lots of columns where we don't have any data yet, but that's just what this report particularly looks like. This is just demo data. I can also run this WIPS file for testing purposes, and I can use the same options, but now I want to use the header. So you can see what this looks like if I actually use the header for testing purposes, if I want to do that. And we really encourage our customers to use this yummy Pearl data. I know the feds make you jump through a lot of hoops, but it's really compelling data to help you tell your story. So let me just run that real quick and have this jump over here to this file, and we can see, our header pops up. Of course, this is not how you would submit this to the feds, but I just want to demonstrate for you that we have all of these columns here as part of this WIPS processing process already built for Pearl 2021. Now, we have another report that's a really key report. This One Workforce in Rural Healthcare, in all the years that we have been supporting H1B grants, we have always provided a pre-built canned report for performance outcome measures. Even going back to the tax days, there were performance outcome measures that you had to keep track of. These are the first two grants where we have been told that the feds are requiring you to submit a real-time performance outcome measures report as an augment report to your QNR. So, saving you tons of time building this out in Excel. We have pre-built this report for you, where once again, you're going to select the grant name, select all organizations, what calendar year, what quarter, right? And you're going to run it. And again, for the sake of time, I just reran these so they're kind of nice and fast. Here's what this report looks like. So we have, you will enter into Prime your goals per year that you put into your appendix as part of your proposal. So you enter in all your goals per year, per partner organization, if that's how you segmented your goals, and even per special populations, if you were particularly focused on women or veterans or people with disabilities, whatever special pops you might be really focusing on, you're going to put in all those iterations of your goals, and this report will present to you when you run it per year and per quarter and per organization, where you are per individual goal in the projected compared to your actuals and your percent to goal. If you had special pops, and I don't in my demo, we will dynamically generate individual worksheets as part of this workbook for each one of those special pops. So you'll always be able to know exactly where you are compared to where you think you are or where you said you were going to be. So this is a really great report in terms of just making this easy for you to tell your story. This is now a required report for the feds. Other reports that are here, I think one of the most key reports that's here is the Codebook. So for you, those of you who are analysts on the call, this is really your Bible where you can, I'll just pick on the WIPS report, where we have documented everything that the feds have put into the Pearl, into that big spreadsheet that's a little intimidating and a little hard to read. We've really represented that data for you in a more readable, digestible format per data element number, and then compare that to where that resides in Prime and how Prime is handling all of the processing for that field based on business rules, errors, WIPS logical rules, all of it. So you have all of this analysis documented for your benefit here, and we keep this up to date for you throughout the life of the project, of course. If you want to do a quick search by data element number, on everybody's favorite field, 1813, right? Or if you wanted to do a search, incumbent, I'll just do a few letters here. Just give me all the fields for which those letters appear for incumbent worker training, for example. So a really nice, I think, guide for giving you information to to what's going on in your system. So a couple of key aspects of reporting here. Queries are just simply, we'll download all of the data for each data set. We have some joins here for you that just are natively going out as CSV files, which is natively read by Excel. So again, you can create your own queries and you can create additional reports. I want to talk a little bit about security. So I have logged in, as I've said before, as an administrator. I have God rights to the system. I can see all of the data from my participants. You can see I have 4 customers here. They represent 2 different staff organizations, right? As administrator, I always see all the data across all of my partner organizations because I have to be able to not only see the data, I need to be able to report on all the data and provide project oversight. But each of your partner organizations, you really want to have it, even though it's a consolidated client tracking system, right, that has participant data and employer data, and lots of partners maybe in your area, your state, or even around the country, you want to have each of those partners sort of hardwalled. So AGS staff organization people only see data that belongs to staff people from AGS. Brownsville Inc. as one of your partner organizations here, you really only want Brownsville Inc. staff to see Brownsville Inc. participants. As an administrator, I see it all. So what I'm going to do is log off, and I'm going to log back in as someone who belongs to AGS. So now we have what's called organization level security, something you might want to write down. Organization level security is part of the architecture built into this application, along with security roles that you will assign each of your end users to. So right now, Katrina Frazier is with AGS. She is not an administrator, so she doesn't see the admin module here on the top. She sees home, participant, employer, and reports. So she does have report rights. But when she clicks on participants, she's only going to see 3 out of the 4 records because she belongs to AGS. So this organization level security architecture is native to all of these templates, and always has been, going way back to our TACT templates. It's just inherent in the architecture. It has to be that way for PII. I'm going to log out. I'm going to log back in as S. Harden, who belongs to Brownsville, and she logs in and she only sees participant and employer module. She doesn't even get to see reports based on her security credentials, and she only sees Brownsville data because that's the organization she belongs to. Again, this is just part of the architecture. It is critical to our customers that we have this built in, and it has always been built in. It works 100% of the time. It's exactly as you need it to be for your consortium projects. I'm going to log back out, and I'm going to log back in as AGS admin. And I can see lots of applications here again, but I'm going to focus on my demo. And now back to participant, I can see them all, and I see my full menu again. So that's just a quick demonstration of what the security looks like and how it behaves based on architectural organization level security. Beyond that, when I go to my little person icon, as an administrator, I can manage staff user credentials, and we can see the user roles here for each of our 2 staff people and which user role or roles they're assigned to. If I pick on Katrina, I can see these are the 3 security roles that we decided she was allowed to see. Now you can create additional security roles beyond the pre-built 4 security groups that we've already provided for you. Having been doing this for a million years, these are pretty much the 4 user roles that we've really come up with, that we've heard from customers, that is to say. But you can always add more. It's really simple to do. If you have other functional groups or processes that you would like to have added here. So the non-local admin report user group is pretty cool because your partner agencies who log in and you want them to have reports access, great, give them access to reports. Organization level security also works on reports, so they can see all the reports, they can see all the queries, but they only render data from their organizations. So you can allow your partners to run their own WIPS file, run their own error checking file, and make sure that their data is perfect before you as the grant manager ever have to deal with it. Just as a quick example, we see that quite a bit. Anyway, I wanted to just make sure that you could see the security credentials and what that looks like in this particular template. It is heavily relied upon, as you can imagine, for these applications. So let's go to the participant management and talk just a little bit about what does it look like to put data in, that ease of data entry concept that we were talking about before. So here's my customers. Again, I'm an administrator, so I can see everything. I'm going to play with my customer named Susan Test. And this is what it looks like to be in a participant's case folder. So this is very much a process-driven client tracking / case management, if I can use that term, business process that we are helping you to support. So instead of having to keep track of a spreadsheet with columns, we have to keep updating columns or cells of data per participant per column when something happens. You really have this natural flow of people helping people. We help someone get registered as a participant, as a potential participant even, and we track some key identifying information, some universal demographics, some might say. We have the allowed field values, the actual field names that come from the Perl help text built right in, and only the allowed values for these fields. Plus, we give you the ability to sort of color outside the lines, because we know that while we have to make sure you're compliant for this grant, we want to make it easy for you to capture additional information that might not be required for WIPS reporting, but it's really part of your business process for your own organization, or for just what you're accustomed to keeping track of and reporting to your board or your funders or your community, whatever the case might be. And so we always start with a profile, and then we kind of get into the meat of it with a program form, where we're really tracking this program enrollment, where we give you the flexibility to name programs, to name your funding source, to provide dates of program entry and exit. And again, these forms have already been modified for Pearl 2021, where we're going to be keeping track of highest educational level, completed that program entry, all of these required fields. And you can see the required fields on this form have pink asterisks. As I fill out those fields, the asterisk stays so humans can see which fields were required, but we can also see that we have satisfied that value. So we've put in just a little bit of data. I'm just going to throw in today's date. And so on this form, we have said that this person is employed. They're not underemployed. But if I said yes to underemployed, and I had also said yes to H1B grant funded, we now get an error on the form. And our save button is now no longer live. So we're not going to allow you to have data be put into the system and saved if it breaks the rules for the Pearl and for WIPS reporting. So right on the screen, we give you this on-screen help text. If I just resolve the issue, whatever it might be, then the error goes away. If I change this field from employed to unemployed, I cannot be considered unemployed and also a recipient of H1B grant funded worker training. So again, we really try to let the computer do what computers can do and take the technology off of your critical path, where your data entry people have this guidance throughout the entire process. We provide training, and we train you as administrators about how to support this tool, and they don't have to have all these business rules memorized. So it's really a nice support. I'll just get rid of that so we can save this form. Other fields on the form, keeping track of training during enrollment, post-completion follow-up, and then we decided to retain the post-exit follow-up information. It's completely optional, but we have so many customers who really desire to track this employment follow-up information, even though they're not responsible for it, you're not responsible for it, the feds will do it. They really want to be able to keep track of this. So we have left this information on the form. The fields are not hot because we haven't exited the program yet. Once the exit date has been completed on the form, then these other fields become live. So that's a little bit of what the program form looks like. We're going to be able to keep track of training and information and credential information and measurable skills gain. Of course, all of this client tracking data that, as humans helping humans, this information gets tracked in living, breathing forms throughout the process. And your WIPS reporting continues to be updated every quarter as the data is being updated per participant. Employment information is actually integrated with the employer management module. So if this person is going to be tracked as getting employed, we're going to be able to click on this employer drop-down. It pulls from my list of employers directly from here. You can see Aurora Electronic Health, Target Medical, and Weathervane. If I click over here, those are my 4 employers that I have in the system, a real CRM portion of the application. So for example, I've got my employer profile, I've got employer contact, you can have as many of those as you want, keeping track of employer activities so you can report your employer outreach to the feds, very interesting and important information. And we can keep track of job openings. So also from the employer side, we can not only create job openings, but if I'm one of your employer reps, I can actually identify a participant who is going to be hired for this particular job and which program she's associated with. And this is the job title. We've already created this job opening. So I can document that over here. Let's say she's going to start on the 27th and save that over here. From the participant side then, if I go to Susan Tests folder, I can either scroll down to her employment, or I could have just gone to her participant's employer related records, which is right here. And I can open this and I see the same thing. So depending upon which side of the house, for example, your staff is focused, they have the ability to work with data and manage this, help manage this process for the participants, for them moving through the process and receiving the benefit of the program and moving from point A to point B and B to C, et cetera, as well as WIPS reporting requirements. All of that is completely baked into this application. Beyond that, we have case notes and participant attachments. Great stuff. We also have, one last thing I'll show off here is we have the ability to use this application for self-registration. Heavily used module in the application. You can launch this, and all of your self-registrants, again, you're going to have your own logos here, not these silly, not our AGS Prime logos. And this data should look familiar, right? It kind of mimics that which was on the participant profile form. You'll probably have a consent fields. You'll have some disclaimer fields. All of that can be added. It's as part of the deployment process. You may even have some additional fields that you are just accustomed to keeping track of. No problem. That's all frequently done by our participants. This data, once it's filled out by a potential participant, gets rolled into the not yet reviewed participants, of which I happen to have one sitting here for demo purposes, where Helen Smith entered this record. If I'm the staff person who's going to be reviewing this and deciding whether or not she filled out the information correctly or not, then I'm going to be filling out some of these last remaining required fields that we just frankly don't ask the participant to respond to, because they wouldn't possibly know what an accountability exit status is. Or we don't want to ask our participants to respond to the disability question, because it's for all the obvious reasons. And then once this is reviewed by a staff person, we set it as reviewed, save it, and then it begins to show up in the reviewed participants list and is now available for staff people from that particular organization. So again, a heavily used portion of the application. I am a little over time, so I'm going to jump back to my my slides and just kind of whip through the final AGS value proposition. Again, we have lots and lots of experience. We work with lots of H1B grants and community colleges and training organizations, AFL-CIO, Working for America, Calumet out of Chicago. We are absolutely H1B subject matter experts. Hopefully I've been able to, demonstrate compliance throughout this 36 minutes on all of these fronts. I really wanted to make sure you saw that. Hopefully you were able to see the performance outcome measures, the integrated CRM, participant self-reg. You also have access to, which we didn't have time to really show off today, but the AGS Prime no-code platform is also part of what's available to you, where you can not only build out more reports, build up your own queries if you want more, but you can also use the platform to build out additional applications should you want to for other grants and other projects. Beyond that, support is just a huge part of what we bring to the table. We know you have options, and customer support has always been, a real hallmark for AGS, whether it's our onboarding training process, the monthly user group meetings, the dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of YouTube videos and documentation, the unlimited administrative technical support. We're really here for our customers, and that is a very, very big deal. So, deep breath. Thank you all very much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I know you have lots of things to do. I think I say that every webinar. It seems like we're always so busy. Every quarter seems like a crazy quarter. But anyway, thank you all very much for your time.